They say family is everything. But what happens when the bonds of blood are tested by betrayal, money, and secrecy? Imagine losing your mother at the age of 12, someone who was not just royalty, but a global icon, beloved and admired for her kindness, her warmth, her tireless devotion to causes close to her heart. Now imagine that decades later, the fortune she left behind, her estate, her legacy, is suddenly a source of tension, a wedge between the sons she loved more than anything. This is the story of Prince Harry and Prince William, the brothers whose relationship has captivated the world for decades, and whose recent feud over inheritance has sparked headlines, speculation, and endless debate. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. It starts with a question that few dare to ask out loud. Could it be true that Prince William has blocked Prince Harry from receiving even a single cent from the estate of their mother, Princess Diana? Not one penny. Not one gesture of financial support from the woman who sacrificed so much for her children. The idea seems almost impossible, a betrayal so sharp it could cut through even the thickest palace walls. Yet sources suggest that this is exactly what has happened, and the implications are far deeper than a simple legal dispute. This is about legacy. This is about trust. And, perhaps most of all, this is about the hidden dynamics of a royal family the world thought it knew. Let's rewind for a moment to understand why this inheritance matters now. Diana, Princess of Wales, died tragically in a car crash in 1997, leaving her sons just teenagers. Her life was cut short. Her death shook the world, and her fortune, though substantial, was complicated, held in trusts, investments, and legal instruments that even experienced estate lawyers would describe as intricate. William, the elder, had assumed much of the responsibility of upholding his mother's legacy, navigating public expectations, and maintaining a dignified image that he believed Diana would have wanted. Harry, younger, more impulsive, and with a different relationship to fame, has always lived somewhat in William's shadow. That dynamic, brother against brother, elder against younger, duty against desire, is at the very heart of this inheritance dispute. But the story doesn't start with money. It starts with loyalty, with promises, with family ties that were supposed to be unbreakable. Diana was a mother who fought for her children in every way she could, shielding them from the pressures of public life, while simultaneously guiding them to be compassionate, aware, and selfless. She left them lessons, memories, and a legacy of love. But wealth, cold, hard, indisputable wealth, has a way of revealing fissures that no bond can mend. William's decision to block Harry, if true, is not just financial. It's symbolic. It's a statement about authority, control, and what he believes the future of the family should look like. Sources suggest that the decision was not taken lightly. Advisors, friends, and palace insiders describe a long period of tension between the brothers, simmering disputes that began years ago but only recently boiled over. Arguments over public statements, media appearances, and personal choices all played a part, but at the center is an inheritance that represents far more than cash. It represents Diana's intentions, her values, and, in many ways, her trust. And when William reportedly made the decision to bar Harry from the estate, it was as if he were signaling that some boundaries of loyalty, of conduct, of alignment with the family, cannot be crossed. Consider for a moment the symbolic weight of this decision. Princess Diana's fortune was never about indulgence or extravagance. Much of it was structured to provide for her sons, to secure their futures, and to ensure that the charitable work she had championed would continue. Denying Harry access to it, even partially, is not just a financial move. It's a rebuke, a message, a dramatic reassertion of control over the family narrative. The world may see it as a legal maneuver or a headline-grabbing dispute, but inside the palace walls, the emotional stakes are enormous. Yet, as shocking as this might sound, there is more beneath the surface. Letters, diaries, and private conversations hint at a side of Diana that few knew. She worried about her sons growing apart. She worried about rivalry. She even expressed concerns about how her wealth might influence their decisions, their relationships, and their reputations. And now, decades later, those very concerns appear to be coming true. William, once the protective elder brother, has taken steps that Harry likely never anticipated. And Harry, in turn, is left grappling with questions that have no easy answers. Why would my brother do this? Was this what Mother would have wanted? And what does this mean for the future of our family? It's easy to read these headlines and shrug, to dismiss it as yet another royal family drama. But the implications go far beyond gossip columns. This is about inheritance law, public perception, and the pressures of growing up as the children of one of the most famous women in modern history. It's about the intersection of private grief and public expectation. And it's about the cracks in a relationship that the world once idealized, the cracks that even love cannot always mend. But here's the twist. Some insiders suggest that the story we think we know, the one about William denying Harry money, is only half the truth. There may be financial instruments in place that protect Harry's future in ways the public cannot see. There may be conditions, hidden clauses, or alternative pathways that Diana herself put into motion. And there may be secrets, letters, confidences, and private conversations that could completely reshape our understanding of this feud. Now, ask yourself this. If you were Harry, how would you feel knowing that your brother, your family, might stand in the way of a part of your inheritance? And if you were William, would you act to protect what you perceive as the integrity of your family legacy, even if it risks alienating your own brother? These are the questions that define this story, questions that are not easily answered, and questions that carry consequences far beyond money. As we move forward in this story, we'll explore the intricate details of Diana's estate, the motivations behind William's decision, Harry's emotional response, and the way the world has reacted. We'll uncover letters, private statements, and insider accounts that will shed light on a situation that, on the surface, seems simple but is anything but. We'll examine the legal mechanics, the public relations strategy, and the emotional toll on both brothers. And we'll look ahead to what this feud might mean for the monarchy, for the public, and for the relationship between two sons whose mother's memory they both cherish. By the end of this story, you may find yourself asking, is this simply a dispute over money, or is it something far more profound, something that challenges the very nature of loyalty, trust, and family? And just when you think you have it figured out, new revelations will emerge, twists that even the most ardent royal watchers could never have predicted. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Imagine growing up in a world where every word you speak, every gesture you make, every move you take, is scrutinized by millions of people. Imagine the pressure of being the son of a mother who captivated the globe. Not just for her style or grace, but for her compassion, her willingness to challenge convention, and the love she poured into every moment of her life. Now imagine losing that mother at an age when most children are still trying to understand themselves. For Prince William and Prince Harry, this was not imagination, it was reality. The death of Princess Diana in 1997 did more than break the hearts of millions around the world. It fractured a family, exposed rifts, and forced two young boys to navigate a life under the spotlight of intense public scrutiny. At the time, William was 15, Harry just 12. They were both grief-stricken, bewildered, and left with the enormous task of carrying their mother's legacy forward while simultaneously mourning a woman whose influence shaped every part of their early lives. In those early years, William, as the elder, took on a role that was almost instinctual. He became the protector, the mediator, the one who maintained appearances, who tried to shield Harry from the media frenzy that surrounded their family. But protection, in this context, carried weight, authority, responsibility. And in the world of royalty, authority is rarely questioned, even within the family itself. William's natural leadership was respected, but it also planted the seeds of tension. A tension that, decades later, would explode in ways no one could have predicted. Harry, by contrast, was the younger, more free-spirited sibling. He carried his mother's rebellious streak, her willingness to defy expectation, and her flair for authenticity. While William grew comfortable within the structure and expectations of royal life, Harry often found himself at odds with protocol, frequently challenging the status quo, sometimes publicly, sometimes behind closed doors. That dynamic, older brother as custodian, younger brother as challenger, was not inherently problematic. It was, after all, a natural tension in many families. But in the spotlight of the monarchy, natural tensions become magnified. Early accounts from childhood friends and family confidants paint a picture of a relationship that was deeply affectionate but complicated. William was protective, yes, but also judgmental in ways that Harry sometimes resented. Harry, energetic and impulsive, would push boundaries, and William's responses, often stern, often calculated, sometimes created friction. These tensions were compounded by the media, which consistently framed every interaction as a battle of the brothers, a public feud waiting to explode. Headlines in the years following Diana's death were relentless. Will and Harry at odds. Sibling rivalry escalates. Tension in the palace. Some reports were exaggerated, some accurate, but all contributed to a narrative that seeped into the consciousness of both boys and shaped their perception of each other. The inheritance dispute we are now witnessing has roots in those formative years. It is the culmination of decades of subtle power struggles, differing values, and contrasting approaches to public life. William, shaped by a sense of duty instilled in him since childhood, sees the estate as a responsibility, a sacred trust to maintain the dignity and legacy of their mother. Harry, meanwhile, views the estate through a lens shaped by both independence and personal freedom. The clash was inevitable, and the recent decision to block Harry from the inheritance may be the most dramatic manifestation yet. Insiders suggest that the friction between the brothers has grown steadily since Harry's marriage to Meghan Markle. The couple's decision to step back from royal duties, their outspoken interviews, and their increasingly independent financial ventures created a divide that William reportedly saw as a challenge to the stability of the family. While some of these disputes were framed as disagreements over public perception or media strategy, others cut deeper, touching on trust, loyalty, and, crucially, the family's financial future. One royal aide confided, "William has always felt a deep responsibility to protect the family legacy. It's not just about money, it's about what the family represents. And when he saw Harry making choices that could endanger that, he had to act." Another source added, "There's a long-standing tension between them. William believes he's protecting Harry from making mistakes. Harry feels smothered, judged, and in some ways, punished." These perspectives illustrate that the inheritance dispute is not merely transactional. It is intensely personal. But even as the feud intensified, the brothers maintained a public facade of civility. To the casual observer, appearances were largely maintained. Smiles at ceremonial events, joint family photos, and public statements suggested a relationship that was functional, if formal. Behind closed doors, however, the story was dramatically different. Conversations were strained, private meetings grew tense, and decisions regarding finances, estates, and public duties became battlegrounds. The inheritance, particularly, emerged as a lightning rod. It is here that we begin to see the contours of William's reasoning. The elder brother reportedly reviewed the terms of Diana's estate, considered Harry's current lifestyle and recent public actions, and concluded that withholding direct inheritance was the only viable option. While the decision may appear harsh, sources insist it was strategic. According to insiders, William sees this not as a punishment, but as a protective measure, a way to ensure that Harry does not make financial or public missteps that could tarnish Diana's legacy. Whether Harry interprets it this way is, of course, another matter entirely. The emotional implications of this decision cannot be overstated. Harry, by many accounts, feels a profound sense of betrayal. The very brother who shared childhood secrets, adventures, and grief has now become, in his eyes, an obstacle to his rightful inheritance. In interviews and public statements, Harry has rarely addressed these issues directly, choosing instead to focus on his charitable work and family. But sources close to him indicate that the impact is significant. Hurt, anger, and a sense of injustice pervade his inner circle. And yet, as dramatic as this all seems, there are paradoxes. Harry has built a life independent of the royal institution, forging careers in media, philanthropy, and business that allow him to operate outside traditional expectations. He has, arguably, created a financial and personal identity that requires less reliance on family wealth. Yet, The emotional resonance of being cut off from Diana's estate is not about money alone. It is about heritage, acknowledgement, and the recognition of a bond that should transcend material considerations. This is why the story resonates with the public. People see the conflict not simply as royalty squabbling over money, but as a profound human story about brothers, mothers, grief, and the complexities of familial love. It raises questions that any family can relate to. What happens when one sibling feels wronged? How do you balance duty and independence? And when the world is watching, how do you navigate the personal pain that cannot be fully shared? Even more intriguing are the small details that often go unnoticed. Friends report that William has meticulously documented conversations, interactions, and financial decisions, as if preparing for disputes he hoped would never come. Harry, for his part, has reportedly maintained his independence, investing in ventures and philanthropic initiatives that reflect his personal values rather than institutional expectations. These differences in approach, methodical caution versus assertive independence, mirror their personalities and help explain why this conflict reached a boiling point.